Hi, everyone. Welcome back to 5 Questions with Fellenbaum, our continuing series where we chat with various members of our Brevard Philharmonic family. Today, we're joined by the concertmaster of the Brevard Philharmonic, and she's also a board member, and it's Kristine Candler. So, Kristine, welcome to 5 Questions with Fellenbaum.
Hi, Jim. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And a lot of people know you because they see you on stage with the Brevard Philharmonic as the concertmaster, the first chair, first violin. And a lot of people know you in other ways around this community and region. And so we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, maybe where you might have done your musical training, cities you've lived in, and things like that.
Okay, sure. I grew up in primarily in Athens, Ohio, starting from third grade. A small town in the part of Ohio that has no city. It's southeastern part of Ohio, but it's the home of Ohio University, where my dad was a professor of music there. It's a small town, much like Brevard, where downtown is a couple blocks long. One high school, you knew just about everybody. So that was where I grew up. Um, and I studied with my mother until I was about 14. Then I was accepted into the violin studio of David Cerrone up at the Cleveland Institute of Music, which was only 4 hours from home. So my lessons were every other week. I would take a day off of school, drive up with one of my parents, eat lunch in the car, have an extended lesson, and also get a chance to participate in the college level studio class where you perform for each other. That was every other week. And then I graduated from high school a little early, a year early, so that I could go and study in Cleveland in college. My teacher then got a job at Curtis Institute, so I needed to I found another place, which was the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, which is where I finished my degree. Um, in the summertime, music festivals and are so important, just as the Brevard Music Center is to your development. I had a chance to, in high school, go to Interlochen and also to a couple summers at Tanglewood, where the Boston Symphony is. Beautiful, beautiful place. Then in college, I was Mr. Cerrone, that teacher in Cleveland, his teaching assistant at the Meadowmount School for Strings, which is in upstate New York, up near Lake Placid. I did that for 2 summers. And then also went out to Colorado for the National Repertory Orchestra training. Very great musicians out there, young, almost not quite professionals, in their early 20s, learning lots of wonderful repertoire. And that was in 1982. And then 26 years later, my cellist daughter went to the same place with the same conductor. And so she had a experience out in Colorado also. So then after I graduated from Eastman School, I moved to New Orleans, where I was director of their Suzuki program and also played in the symphony there. I got married and moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Roll Tide, with my husband, who was on the faculty there. I started a Suzuki program there, and it grew and grew, added teachers. I ended up finally with 40 students at some point and 3 string orchestras. I was fortunate, though, to be able to teach a lot of homeschool students. So I could start my day at 9 in the morning and teach during the day rather than after school. A lot of teachers don't get to start teaching lessons until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I could get in all my students and orchestra practices and be home for dinner with my girls. So that worked really well for still working hard, but being at home with family. But anyway, so then in 2008, I accepted the position here at the Music Center as their communications officer in the office. I did things, press releases, program books, I talked to community groups, presentations, that kind of thing. And I did that for 2.5 years. But then I realized, it was more than 40 hours a week, especially in the summertime, and it didn't leave enough time for performing. So I gracefully resigned from that so that I could just play my violin more. And I was playing in Asheville Symphony, Spartanburg Symphony, Hendersonville Symphony, and Brevard Philharmonic at that point. So I got married to John in 2012, and I backed up on some of those orchestras because you're out every night, and I could be out every night for a month and not have much family dinner time or whatever. So, but that's kind of my career in a nutshell. I'm down to two orchestras now, so that helps my schedule.
My second question has to do with your violin, or at least a violin that you've had from your past. You mentioned a 1/8 size violin. Yeah, will you show that to us? I think that's
Right.
that. See
I
now
have it right there.
on screen, that just kind of looks like a regular size violin. You have your other violin as a
I
comparison.
do. I do. Here is my violin.
Ah, okay. So tell us about the 1/8 violin. That's interesting.
The 1/8 violin, sorry, my mother went to a Suzuki, first ever Suzuki workshop in 1966
Oh,
when he
wow.
was new to this country. He was at the young age of, uh, oh, 70-ish. No, not quite, 68.
Yeah.
And came home, and at that time I was 4 years old. So it was a perfect chance to have me be her first guinea pig and start her Suzuki career, which ended up being a fabulous long career of training teachers and everything till
Mm.
she was 80. But this violin, so it's dated 1966, and it's from Nagoya, Japan, which is also where Dr. Suzuki's father's violin making shop was. So this is my first violin. It's not as small as they come. This one is one size down.
Oh, look at that.
It's called a 10th size, most appropriate for about a 4-year-old. This might have been, this was an added size. And they even go smaller. In my teaching, I never used the itty bitty ones because I liked my students to be potty trained by the time I taught them violin. So I usually started children about age 4 and 5 was my preferred age, which I guess either one of these violins, depending. But that's like I said, this is my first violin, which I will keep forever. I also had the wonderful opportunity to study with Dr. Suzuki a few times. Starting in the late 60s, I was about 6 or 7. He came to my family home in Ithaca, doing a workshop at the Ithaca College. That's before I moved to Athens. And we played duets together.
Oh,
And then a few other times when he would come back to the United States for some of these Suzuki workshops, I got to perform for him. And then the last time was we did go to Matsumoto where he lived because we just wanted to always go see where he lived and his Suzuki school there. And so I got to play for him there. So it was a wonderful. It was just during that whole time of the development in the 70s of the Suzuki movement all over the world, and it was he was just a wonderfully kind-hearted. Beauty was what all he was after. He wanted students to learn music for beauty's sake, not for professional violinists or whatever. He just wanted that beauty to be with children.
so tell us a little bit about your main violin, about how old it is. People have always asked you about that.
They do. They always want to know, uh, where it came from and how old it is.
Yeah.
It's an Italian instrument. The last name is Oduardi. It was dated approximately in the 1830s, which is quite young compared to the Stradivarius violins, which are in the early 1700s.
Right.
So it's 1830-ish is what the date is. I've had it since I became a professional. Had a nice little loan to buy my violin, but it's my violin. It's kind of like having your own horse. It's you know what it can do and what it can't do, and you're comfortable with it. So I've tried other violins. My mother had some and whatever, but I keep coming back to the one that like I said, that I'm very used to. So
And you've had for all of your professional life, and so
that's
it's like another part of you.
right. It is. It is. I've been. It's been good to me. So
Well, you alluded to this a little bit earlier. So, my third question is people know you as the concertmaster of the Brevard Philharmonic, and you're also a board member, but you also wear many hats in this community. You're connected with organizations and other orchestras. So, talk a little bit about that.
yes, I love. being with Brevard Philharmonic. Like I said, when I left my desk job, the Philharmonic was really starting to gain some traction, and I was really glad to be able to join as concertmaster and then as a board member. Um, uh, some of my best friends are board members, and I've met them through the Philharmonic, and they're, wonderful supporters, and that's what an orchestra like this needs, not just with finances, but with enthusiasm. So I'm really glad to be a part of the
Yeah.
board. Um, and as I mentioned, I play now in Hendersonville. Well, I used to, and I will again once we're allowed to. But I let go of the other couple of orchestras, so that's the other one that I play more frequently. Then the Brevard Music Center. I actually been coming to the Brevard Music Center since the summer of 1985. My spouse was the cellist on the faculty, and then a couple of years later, I joined the faculty. And so we would come here every summer from Tuscaloosa and live in a cabin up the hill here with one bathroom and two bedrooms and three children and a dog.
Oh
And
my.
it's kind of a brigadoon. We just loved it. It just kind of came. The kids loved it. They had friends. They were fondly known as the faculty brats because they were faculty brats, and they got to run around. They got to be in opera productions like La Boheme and Carmen, and so they just loved their summers too. Their very best friends to this day are from the summertime. So anyway, so I was on the faculty for a while, and then I took some summers off when the children were small, so I could, be more mom, and then back on the faculty again. And now this, continuing relationship. John was president for 18 years, and we married in 2012. And now I live here on the campus. And while he was president, did lots of entertaining. And now the requirement is not there, but the love is still there. And so we enjoy having some receptions. I love to bring guest artists who've not been to Brevard to the house to enjoy some social time, just so they can see what Brevard and Brevard Music Center is all about. Our favorite thing is also we give faculty picnics, suppers, where we prepare the food, no catering. We prepare the food with a couple of friends of ours, set out some tables out in the patio, and it's always been a great social time for faculty to come and just unwind and relax and enjoy food and drink with us in the summertime. So we love that.
So my next question is somewhat of a follow-up to talking about you being our concertmaster for the Brevard Philharmonic, and I thought it would be interesting at one point to talk about what does an orchestra librarian do or an orchestra manager, and one of those is concertmaster. Concertmaster has a lot of other responsibilities besides being the first chair, first violin, and the person who comes out to tune the orchestra and things like that. So, under regular, normal circumstances, when we get back to performing in the hall, talk with us about what you do per concert per year, your kinds of responsibilities and duties are as concertmaster.
Well, before a rehearsal, we're given the music. Sometimes the bowings, which means whether my bow is going this way or that way, it seems like it's a simple answer, but it's not. There are many, many options. So it's my responsibility to check over the parts, add and clarify the bowings, and then share those with the other principals of the other string section. Then they mark their parts, and then the librarian helps mark all the other parts. And that can be a very tedious process. It can take weeks to get everything coordinated. And even in rehearsal, if something's not working, whatever, I need to fix it and pass that around. It also helps the way things sound, how you bow it, whether it's more legato or staccato or those kinds of things. So that's a huge responsibility. I also am kind of, or a concertmaster. I hate to shine the light on myself. A concertmaster is also just in charge of making sure that everybody's okay. Like, is there a question I need to clarify with the conductor? Do I have a question, or just to make, if I'm hearing something funny going on beside me or behind me, it's kind of my job to either fix it or ask you to fix it or ask you to clarify. Um, uh, So that's kind of the acting, you know. Yes, there is the walking out on stage. I know I've met people before and they say, "You look familiar." "Oh, you're the one who walks out on stage." And I
Right.
say, "That's the worst part. Let me tell you, I just, you know, don't trip." And then to tune the orchestra, it's of course necessary. It's fairly symbolic because they're adults and they can tune themselves. But this has just been the way it's been. We make sure that we're all matching the same A that the oboe sounds. And if there's, I can look around and make sure if there are any troubles, which every once in a while you can see someone struggling with something. I wait to sit down until it looks like everyone's ready for you to come out. So that's what everybody sees me do. Like I said, it's tradition, but it's also just a way to make sure everything's set before we start the show concert.
And also traditionally, one of the concertmaster's jobs is if the conductor somehow like falls off the stage and is unable to continue, usually the concertmaster would take over at that point. But I don't think that's anything that we'll be doing anytime soon, right?
No, I think I'll pass on that. I'll
Yeah.
just we'll finish the piece without you. How about
Yeah.
that?
Okay. That sounds good. The show must go on, that kind of thing. So, somewhat of a follow up to your role as concertmaster, you play a lot of different music, and so this is one of those impossible questions, like who's your favorite child, that kind of thing. What is either your favorite piece or your favorite type of music to play, or within some of those genres, what are some of your favorite pieces that you've enjoyed playing over the years?
Yeah, that is hard because
Yeah.
I love them all to some extent. I think my favorite are the ones that are so string happy. Bach, all the Brandenburgs, the orchestral suites, the Handel fireworks music and water music. I love those. They're just so much fun to play. I also love Mendelssohn. His music is quite fun. I think never have a favorite piece, but in my top 5 or 3 is the Mendelssohn Octet. I've had the pleasure of playing, and I still just love to listen to it today. I love Schubert. Also, same reason, beautiful melodies, great string playing. So those would be the favorite things to play. Um, I also love rich harmonies. So not that I don't not like to play them, but even just to listen, I love to listen to Richard Strauss, some of those beautiful tone poems of his. Mahler, love some of especially the beautiful Mahler, not the troubled Mahler, but the beautiful Mahler. And in one of your Fellenbaum's favorites, Puccini, any opera of Puccini just has just such lovely melodies, harmonies, melt away kind of thing. So those would be my favorites to listen to. I like to play them, but I really like to listen to them.
So my final question is, when you're not doing music, whether it's responsibilities with Brevard Philharmonic or activities associated with BMC, what kinds of other things do you like to do? What kinds of hobbies, interests, and things like that?
Well, the pandemic really it kind of gets you to find something to do, as I felt guilty for so long not being busy. Um, uh, and the one thing I've always loved to cook. So of course everybody cooked more. So I enjoyed cooking lunch and dinner, trying new things. The best thing that has come out of pandemic lockdown is reading for me. I always loved to read. I never kind of allowed myself to sit down for 2 hours in the afternoon or even an hour and read a book. And now I do that many times a week, if I have a little time after lunch before I need to get on and do other things. And I've just read more books in the last year than I think in my entire life. But it's been a wonderful journey. I've loved that. So and I've always loved a jigsaw puzzle. So for me, that's kind of the end of the day. Maybe before I cook dinner, I might sit for 30 minutes, glass of wine, fiddle around at a puzzle for a few minutes. So I've done, oh goodness, mostly historic places like Notre Dame. Right now I'm working on the Spanish Steps um, from Rome. I can't remember the other ones that are the historic places. We love to travel too. We don't travel often, but we do like a nice trip every year. We've rescheduled our Bordeaux trip for the third time, so maybe we'll get there this fall. That would be fun. So that's what I enjoyed doing.
Well, Kristine, it's been such a pleasure to talk with you today and to allow our viewers to get to know you just a little bit better. So thank you again for joining us for 5 Questions with Fellenbaum.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.